Fleece actually has two products. The High-Flow Intake plenum replaces the restricting factory intake sector, and the one we're talking about today, the intake and grid heater kit. Fleece's kit retains what I call the cosmetic wing. This must be discarded with the Banks kit. First things first, the upper valve cover needs to be removed, which houses the crankcase ventilation filter. Then the lower valve cover is removed, housed by 6 bolts. Then the injector wire / gasket is removed. These next few steps is not how you're supposed to do it, it's how I do it. Next, remove the 7 bolts holding the third piece of the valve cover down. Remove the 10mm bolts holding the EGR down, there's 4 of them, and the 11mm, and then the 11mm deep socket to remove the clamp holding the pipe to the EGR valve. Now remove the 6 bolts holding the intake air horn down and the 11mm clamp holding the pipe to the EGR to the intake air ram. Also, at this point, remove the 10mm bolt holding the intake heater power cable. So it's much easier to undo this connector once you've pulled the intake air ram into this position. Next, remove the fuel line banjo bolt, making sure that you catch the inner gasket. Remove injector lines 1 through 5 from the head. Remove injector line number 6 from the fuel rail. Using a small pry bar, pry gently up on number 6 injector so that you can finagle the fuel rail out from underneath it. Do not try to pry too hard. If you bend it, it's going to make it very difficult to get that nut to start back on there. Just flex it enough to get it out and then set the fuel rail up on top of the rocker arms. Now we can remove the last 4 bolts of the top plate so that we can inspect the heat grid for damage. This is the nut or the heat grid that can come loose and fall out and damage your engine. As you can see, this one's in great shape. Fleece kits, as well as others, eliminate the cold start heat grid, therefore eliminating the bolt that potentially can fall down and damage your engine. For cold weather, it still has to have a heat grid of some sort, so they incorporated a different style of heater that is incorporated into the air horn. When you install the top plate, make sure that the surface is clean and the gasket is in place and all the bolts are in it. There's only 4 bolts that you can tighten down to begin with, but you need to put all the bolts in first so that the plate will stay square and you can install the bolts afterwards. There's 2 bolts next to the temperature sensor there, and there's one on the far right corner and then just diagonally up from the other corner. Them 4 bolts have to be tightened first, and then all the rest of the bolts can be removed so that you can install the fuel rail and continue putting it back together. Make sure that you're careful prying that number 6 injector back up as you're trying to finagle and fish it back into place. Remember, you want to flex it to get it to fit underneath there. Do not bend it, or you're going to have a very hard time getting it to start. Once you get that number 6 bolt, or get the fuel rail in there underneath the number 6 bolt, make sure that you get that fuel line number 6 nut screwed onto the fuel rail before you bolt the fuel rail down. It will save you a lot of headache. I don't like the red or the gray gasket that come in this kit. If you're going to use the red one, get some weather strip adhesive and glue it down. It'll make life much easier for you. The gray one, I have seen them blow out. In stock form, probably nothing will happen, but if you've got yours hot rodded at all, that gray gasket I have seen blow out and more than once. If I would recommend that you take the steel gasket that was underneath the original plate, clean it all up really good and put it back on before I would use that gray gasket. This is just my opinion, but I have seen it happen and I've never seen the steel gasket explode. Also, if the red gasket isn't red and it's steel, I would use that one as well. This is one of the things that I like about the Banks kit better, because they both use the steel shim gasket. After you get the plate on and the injector lines on, or injector rail on and tightened down, and then all the injector lines tightened up, you need to hook this jumper wire that comes with the kit so that you can connect it to the connector that you disconnected previously that came off the side of that plate instead of on top of there. There's several other little jumpers that you'll have to hook up to for the EGR. I'll show them in a bit. The fleece and the factory air horn are very similar in height, therefore there isn't any modifications that is necessary and everything bolts back up the way you took it off. Fleece, unlike Banks, doesn't require you to replace the number 1 injector line. However, I wasn't too excited about having to bend that factory line to get enough room to slide a piece of cardboard in between it. Fleece gives you a brand new power cable for the heat grid, as well as an auxiliary ground. I like the factory cable better than theirs, although I do like the ground. However, I installed it as they designed it to be installed. I do like the red shrink tubing and the cover for the top of the heat grid or glow plug or whatever you want to call it, the cold start aid plug, and also the friction material, the black stuff there to put where it would rub. I thought that was pretty nice. This shows where the new heater cable is attached to the glow plug relay. And here shows where the other end of the cable is attached to the heat grid / glow plug, cold start aid, whatever terminology you choose or what you're comfortable with. Hopefully you watch this to the end before you start it, because there's a few gotchas. It's mostly just reverse order, putting it back together at this point. However, this bolt, banjo bolt, on the newer models is back there next to the number 6 injector line. So you have to undo that one from back there, and just makes it even that much more fun trying to get it out from under the number 6 injector. The reason I removed the number 6 injector line off the fuel rail instead of off the engine is because there's a bracket back there that makes it very difficult to undo that injector line, and it is way easier to take it off the fuel rail than to fight that bracket, which is up against the firewall, and you have to loosen it to get to that injector line. This is just a much simpler, easier way to do number 6. On the newer models, it has this cosmetic cover over the sensor that you have to remove before you can remove the connector from the sensor. This is an idiotic, stupid, unneeded cover that Chrysler decided they needed to put on. It's so asinine. Yes, Chrysler, I am calling you names. This is what it looks like when you get it off. I have a very special place that I put these. It's called File 13. If you don't know what that means, it means the effing garbage can. Done. Never to fight me ever again. This plugs into the back of the fuel rail. If you want to just get the fuel rail completely out of your way, you just have to unplug this sensor and you can remove it completely. However, the newer models have a sensor that hangs down the back side of it, and that connector is buried down underneath, which is a little more fun to disconnect and is required to be disconnected in order to get the fuel rail out of the way. But for this style, you can just pick it up and set it on the rocker arms, or you can unplug it and get it out of the way, whatever tickles your fancy. Another thing, when you're putting the injector line / gasket on and you're putting the nuts back onto the injectors, they need to be tighter than finger tight, but not much. Them injector studs are copper and they will snap off, and it will cost you a new injector, and they ain't cheap. Just a warning. But if they're only finger tight, they will eventually come loose and set injector codes and make it run horrible. Ask me how I know. Make sure you wipe the gasket surface down on this upper valve cover, because they are prone to cracking in the gasket surface area. If it's got a crack, it's going to leak. You'll have to replace it, and they ain't very cheap either, but you need to look and wipe it all down good, because they do crack. Also, there is 6 bolts that hold this valve cover down. 4 of them that you can see and 2 that's hidden up underneath. Don't forget them 2 in the back, or it will leak oil. Also, notice them 8 brass inserts into the valve cover where the top cover that holds the crankcase ventilation filter goes. Don't use an air ratchet on them. It's into plastic and they'll just strip out. Will be a bad day, and once again you'll be replacing that valve cover for that reason. Be gentle. They're only 8 millimeters. They don't need to be that tight. Also, if the crankcase ventilation filter element is black instead of a yellowish white, now's a great time to replace it. Remember this piece of crap? Well, underneath it hides yet another lock that has to be undone before you can remove the sensor. This red lock has to be moved upwards in order to be able to release the wire off the sensor. Caution, this thing is very fragile, and if that piece breaks off, you'll be using a pick trying to dig that stupid lock out of there, and maybe even breaking the connector trying to get it out. Be very gentle with this thing. This is another red lock that you have to remove before you can move the sensor wire, only this one's a little bit different. You have to pry it out and then down to remove the sensor. You have to hold the red button down with your thumb while you pry the sensor off. The 2 back bolts of the upper valve cover are a bit of a pain in the butt. This is how I accomplish it. A U-joint on a medium deep socket. It works pretty good. This bracket has to be removed on the Banks kit. It does not have to be removed on the Fleece. Also, that reinforcement or that brace right there also has to be removed on the Banks, where it does not on the Fleece. Now, I'm sure you're asking me why I'm comparing the Fleece, or why I'm the Fleece to the Banks. Well, I will only recommend either the Fleece or the Banks. There's a whole lot of them out there. I have installed most of them. These are the only two I recommend, and when I do mine on my own personal truck, it will be the banks, and I'll have another video that's a lot more detailed when I do that. But this is how it's done. This should get you through it, and we'll see you on the next video. Bye for now.